chapter, we talked about different organisms, their groups, their features, and how we can identify them through the help of dichotomous key. In this new chapter, chapter 2, we will be learning about different cell structures. But before we do that, we must first know our objectives for today. First is to describe and compare the structure of a plant cell with an animal cell and bacterial cell. Number 2, identify the cell structures listed later on in the discussion in diagrams and images of plant, animal, and bacterial cells. Different kingdoms, different cells. We learned about 5 different kingdoms from the previous chapter, and that includes your plants, animals, fungi, protoctists, and protists. All these groups can actually be divided into two for their cell structures. First group is known as prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are groups of animals, or cells rather, without nucleus. Second one, eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are groups of cells with nucleus. This is their primary difference. And other than that, eukaryotes are able to maintain a different environment within their cells, and it allows them to carry out several complex metabolic reactions that prokaryotes cannot do otherwise. Let us now define cells. Cells are the smallest units from which all organisms are made. If you still remember the term unicellular and multicellular, these will all vary from one species to another. Unicellular are organisms that can survive with one cell only. For example, you have your bacteria. And then for multicellular, these are organisms that require a number of cells together in order for it to be able to perform a function. For example, in humans, let's not go too far anymore, we have our heart, right? And our heart is actually made up of many cells in order to pump and distribute blood throughout our body. We knew of the existence of cells because of the help of an instrument known as microscope. Microscope is defined as a laboratory instrument used to examine objects that are too small to be seen by the naked eye. Robert Hooke famously discovered plant cells while using this instrument, and he was able to describe their appearance that look like this, and he thought that it looks like the cells or the places where monks pray. That's why they named it, or he named it, as cell. Microscopes vary in their ability in magnifying small things. If you would be going to the laboratory later on in school, of course, we would be seeing light microscopes over there. But if in the future you plan to be a researcher, a scientist, someone in the medical field, or any discipline in biology, you might be able to have a chance to use an electron microscope, which also vary in its magnification power. These are the very first microscopes. This one were invented by Anton von Leeuwenhoek sometime in 1600s. And if you would notice in this image, it's pretty small. I cannot really imagine how they operate it, but luckily we have this image on our right. So they will put the things that they want to see in this area in here, and they would try to refine the view or the sharpness of the image through the help of this screw in here. Okay, and this is the microscope that help us first see several organisms and cells actually, and these include the following: red blood cells, crystals, sperm cells, fish, egg cell, salt, leaf veins, muscle cells. All of those were seen through the help of these microscope. And of course, it was very fascinating for the scientists at that time. And from that point on, many advancement and refinement, especially in lenses, were able to be accomplished by several companies. And now we can see more compared to what they can see with that first, not really the first, but one of the first few models of microscopes. Let us now see the different structures that we can find inside the cell. So, in here, in this slide, you would see three different columns, and each column will tell us something about that structure within a plant, an animal, or a bacteria. And on your leftmost side, that would be the name of the structure or the organelle. And there will be pictures associated for each group as well.